common sense.
Hi, welcome back. This is Bob Mills. This is Talk Radio, the Oasis show, 114 every Sunday, where we talk about serious issues, but none of the big. We're not interested in who's had a Christmas party and who's lying to us or anything like that. There's no Illuminati on the show. Now, my very special guest in this course of the show is Ricky Gleeson. Right. Let me tell you what Ricky Gleeson is going to be talking about. He's going to be talking about his podcast, The Outside Looking In, and this wonderful new SportsTraider charity initiative that he's got in Newcastle. Before we do that, I think it behoves us to explain exactly how Ricky Gleeson and I know each other.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's a brilliant way that we know each other. I got, what phrase can I use? Offered out, basically.
I wouldn't say it was that far. It wasn't that serious.
No. I got confronted on Twitter, on social media, by Ricky Gleeson. Many, many years ago, I used to do a television program called In Bed With Me Dinner, which a lot of you know about and a lot of you tweet about now and again. And it was a very good show and there were some very funny things on it. But there were some things on it that I look back on and think that wasn't in very good taste. Some things weren't in very good taste. And I got a tweet from someone. I thought, well, who's this? Some oik tweeting me. Saying, I've just seen a bit of you on In Bed With Me Dinner, you and your audience, having a damn good laugh about this lady being basically shoved about and attacked by a big drunk man. These drunk men, these drunken people on the estate. You'll know the clip if you know the program. I just thought you might be interested to know that was my mother. Okay.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you had any comments about that. Which was then, this was the fascinating thing, Rick. It was then followed by a group of people who jumped in and said, nah, you won't hear from him. Nah, you won't have anything to say. Nah, they don't. Like,
yeah.
Who are they that don't react to things that are said on Twitter? And we got in touch and we spoke about it rationally and maturely, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well, actually. Yeah.
And then went on and did other things.
Yeah. Well, I saw that you were following me suddenly on Twitter, so I knew you'd noticed that I was tweeting you. And then after an hour or so, you sent me a very long, not very long, but a clearly, like, you took time to apologise.
Yeah, exactly. And it was basically what I said was that was, it was a very good show, and I'm not apologising for it. I'm not saying, I wish I'd never done any of that. However, as the years have gone by, I've become very aware that there were parts of it that I certainly wouldn't do now.
Yeah, I think what you said is that you weren't comfortable with a lot of the stuff that you'd done back then.
Yeah.
And it was a different version of you from 30 years ago.
Yeah, but what fascinated me, and we'll move on away from it in a second. What fascinated me was that there's a lot of people, a lot of other people on Twitter who had nothing to do with it, didn't know you, didn't know me, who had this huge opinion of what I was thinking and what you were thinking and what the outcome of it was going to be.
Which is why as soon as you apologised, I said, right, I'm deleting all those tweets because I'm not about cancel culture. It was about catching your attention.
Yeah.
The only way I knew how to wasn't about trying to...
But it was weird, wasn't it? Because if someone comes up to you, if I've done a comedy gig and someone comes to me and says, I didn't like that joke, I was offended, I'll say, well, I'm sorry, mate, there's nothing to do. But if anyone comes up to you in life and says, you did something once, either intentionally or not, that really, really hurt me, well, of course you're going to talk to them about it. And doesn't everyone do that?
Yeah, I think so. Just not on social media.
No,
On social media, everybody just argues it out for hours, don't they? So,
yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, nobody ever accepts that they sort of might be in the wrong, or which, like you said, when you message me, my whole thinking was that you'd message me and you'd apologise. So what was I actually wanting when I got in touch with you? Did I want an apology or did I want to argue with you for hours? And actually, I wanted an apology. Yeah. So when you apologised, I had to kind of accept that apology. And then,
it was a very interesting look into the mindset of a lot of people on social media who aren't interested in that. What they want is the row. Yeah, that's what they want. Yeah. They want to watch the row.
The recreationally offended.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So there's a lot to talk about. We talk about your podcast. What do you want to talk about first? Outside Looking In or SportsTraider?
Well, I mean, we ended up doing a podcast together,
right?
So you should probably talk about that.
Tell us about that. Tell us about the podcast that you do.
Yeah, so I'd already done one podcast, or maybe two, with a friend of mine that we were both homeless for a long time. So obviously that's the main content of the podcast, is the fact that I come from a background where I was homeless for a fair chunk of my young life, and so was my friend that I did the podcast with, and we talk about all sorts of issues like, you know, the homelessness, the drug addiction, the fact that we were both from a care system, etc. You'd obviously watch one, because then you came back to me and said, having watched your podcast, I knew that you would be willing to reason and talk about things normally. So that's good. And then, we've done a podcast together, and I've done a few more since with various people. I did one with Mike Barton, I don't know if you remember the clip on Question Time of the ex-copper that was talking about how, you know, we needed to have a grown-up discussion about the war on drugs, etc. So I've done a podcast with him. I've just done a podcast with, you know, a sort of professional girl that's explaining that there's a lot of hidden addictions in the world, and she was part of that. She works in a professional capacity, and nobody realised that she was really struggling, to the point she nearly jumped off the Tyne Bridge up in Newcastle and had to go to rehab. So that's the kind of thing that we talk about.
Because the podcast, my understanding of it is that it's saying don't think, if you see a homeless person or you see don't think that by any stretch of imagination you know what they are, I thought about it. It's not preaching, it's not telling you to feel sorry for everybody that you see on the street, and it's not telling you that they're a super nice person, because the chances are some of the people on the street, if they can rob you, they will. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, in that situation, you know about my past, I wasn't exactly a beacon of, you know, good behaviour when I was younger either. No. But my point is that there's almost always, and when I say almost always, I mean statistically, it's almost always the same story that you hear for people that end up in that situation. It's always care system, you know, been let down, fallen through the cracks, chaos childhood, time and time again. So it's just, don't judge too harshly. And also people that are in that situation, I used to be in that exact situation, and I'm not now, but I'm still the same person. But there is a way out. Tell us about your way out.
Just got to keep trying, really, not lose hope.
But what did you do?
So eventually, you know, I stopped getting into trouble at 21, after I'd racked up 42 convictions for just nothing, like really petty stuff. You know, it's just a serial young offender, your stereotypical young offender getting in trouble all the time, not for anything really serious, but constant. And then I managed to stay out of trouble, but I was sort of plagued by like the homelessness for years. But once I'd been out of trouble for a decade, I went to the military careers office and begged. Not begged, but I really fronted up, you know, about my history and everything, and said I'd been out of trouble for 10 years. And I met a guy called Chief Caesar up in Newcastle, and he, you know, had my back and got me into the Royal Navy. And
so was this just a normal recruitment office?
Yeah, it was just a normal recruitment office that I went into with no preparation or anything, which you're supposed to. But when they got this chief down, I think I was so honest about everything that he just paused and was like, all right, I'm going to try and help you get you in. So, and then about 7 months later, I was at Raleigh doing my basic training, and then all of a sudden I was in the Royal Navy, and that's what I've done for the last 12 and a half years. I'm about to leave in the next couple of months. And
what did you do in the Royal Navy? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, I'm an aircraft handler. I work on the flight deck of.
The aircraft carriers.
Yeah. I'm the guys that you see waving things around. And
just correct me if I'm wrong. Is that really just a big piece of rubber?
What?
The elastic that holds them and.
What on it?
Yeah.
There's no elastic on them anymore, Bob.
Isn't there?
That's about 40, 50 years.
Is that a long time ago?
There's thrusters on the aircraft. Now. They just shoot them off the end.
Because it used to be. And what about the ones that used to go upwards?
Well, they
were brilliant.
Yeah, the Harriers. As I joined, that's when the government did away with the Harrier jump jet, and it turned out they shouldn't have. But that's politics, and you don't do.
Because to me that looked like the perfect thing.
Yeah, I mean, they just they discontinued them, and then for a long time we haven't had any aircraft on our aircraft carriers.
Shh, you're not supposed to tell them that.
But
no,
we have now.
Sometimes the Russians listen.
We have now.
So we've got a full fleet now.
Yeah, we're back now.
Okay.
But I'm leaving now anyway, so.
So why? Because you've done your term basically. So
I've just had enough.
Okay.
Not in a bad way. I've just, I've done 12 and a half years and I want to go home, and, we're moving up to Newcastle. I've got 2 young kids now, so I don't like going away.
Okay.
My wife has sort of followed me around for the entirety of our 23 years.
So where have you been? Where have you been in the world?
So I've been all over the Middle East. I've been all over Europe. We did just do the world tour, but because of COVID, we did things like we went to Singapore and sat in a dockyard for a week, and we went to Guam. That was my last place that I visited, was Guam, a tiny little island in the Pacific Ocean. Yeah. And then they flew us back from there, and that's it. That's my time. But I've been all over the Middle East, which is nicer than what people seem to think.
Well, I've done. I wonder if you were on the boat you were on. Ship. Yeah. It didn't have the cage on it for the pirates, did it?
Yeah. So I went on the Fort Victoria just after I joined, as I was replacing my friend that was on there when they had the pirates in the cage, because they'd attacked the Fort Victoria, not realising it had a big phalanx.
Because I did a show, I did a gig, right? Because someone was alongside in one of the Emirates. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
And and you always have to start the day. Always starts. You have to go and visit them first. They have the show in the evening, but during the day you go and have a look around the messes. And on this one there was a cage.
Yeah.
And they told us it was for the pirates.
Yeah, no, it was.
We didn't. Yeah,
no, it was for the pirates. Yeah.
Because we said, how do you know? When you see a small boat, how do you know it's pirate? And what they said was, because they're all wearing knockoff Man United shirts.
Yeah, probably.
And that's apparently how Senegalese pirates are identified. Somali pirates.
By Man United.
Knockoff Man United t-shirts.
Specifically Man United.
Tell us about the SportsTraider charity.
Yeah, so again, with the podcasts, we did one with a guy called Lance Haggith. I don't know if you've ever heard of Lance Haggith. He was he was the BBC Unsung Sports Personality of the Year in, I think it was 2010. And he comes from a sporting background, but he's also a really successful businessman. He was one of the founders of Microsoft in the UK, and he's a serial entrepreneur. And then, as he explains it, as he got into his autumn years, as he said, he decided that he wanted to put something back in. So he set up this national charity called SportsTraider, which essentially it's a sports shop on the high street that sells sporting equipment to people that otherwise couldn't afford.
Is this trader TRAID?
AID, hence the aid in it. Okay. Yeah, so that's like a national charity that he's got. Is it 10 shops?
So hang on, so it's new stuff.
It's either donated by various brands, or it's good equipment. It's not, it's a charity shop, but it's not laid out like a charity shop.
No,
you're not getting.
And who gets what's to stop anyone going in there buying gear?
We are finding that out.
Yeah.
As you know, we are very.
That's a terrible, cynical question.
No. We're finding it out. We're in the early stages of taking it up to Newcastle. He's got 10 shops around the country. They branch out into the community and put on sports clubs and everything as well. So it isn't just a case of you just go in and buy gear.
Yeah.
Their shops become sort of hubs. And the people that they hire to work in them are ex-convicts. I'm an ex-convict, so that sort of ticked my box. People, disabled people that otherwise struggle to get jobs. So it's really about involving people from the community that sometimes won't get those opportunities. I'd done the podcast with Lance Haggith, and he sort of said that they'd made it all the way up to Hull, and then I was like, have you made it to Newcastle yet? And he mentioned that he needed to find the right people. So me and my secretary, Ian...
That's what he likes to call me.
Yeah,
I'm the social secretary.
I'm the brains behind the operation.
Yeah. So me and my friend Ian. Ian's a businessman in his own right. So we just sort of pitched Lance and said, look, if you're going to use people to take it up to Newcastle, you're going to find worse people to use than.
Do you know where it's going to be?
No, we've got to do everything. We've got to get the money together to rent the property. I mean, we're starting from scratch and taking it up to Newcastle. We've got to find places to put on events for us to raise money. We've got to find the premises where we want it.
We've got to find a way of speaking to Amanda Stavely.
Yeah, we've got to find a way of getting in with...
No, she's who you want, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, because it's in Newcastle, we want to get involved with Newcastle United somehow. And, this fresh money that's there. And just because it's Newcastle United, the obviously, even though I've got a southern accent, I grew up there, and I'm a massive Newcastle United fan. And you know yourself, that club is the city. The stadium's in the middle of the city. If you're from Newcastle, you support Newcastle. If you're from Newcastle and you don't support Newcastle, you're instantly met with disdain, like what. So it's a one club city, yeah. So I mean, if we could tie in with them somehow along the way, but not just them, we're doing something with a boxing club called Fit Club in Newcastle, which I've sort of boxed for them before, and they're gonna put on a show for us with the proceeds going towards the
shop.
Just the shop, yeah. So
it sounds like a brilliant idea because people forget this. They think, oh yeah, people are poor. You better give them a food parcel. They've got food banks. There's so much more to it than that. I mean, I would hate to ever try and adopt the mantle of having been poor. But I can certainly remember when I was a kid growing up, because there was 5 of us.
Yeah.
There was 5 of us, and I had a stepdad who worked as hard as he could driving lorry. But we didn't have spare money. We didn't have any money. And one of the things that would be a problem would be like football boots.
Yeah.
It's like, no, hang on, I bought you shoes. You've got shoes and you've got pumps for when you do PE at school. But football boots, that's for an awful lot of families.
Yeah.
That is a little bit above the line.
Trainers, do you know what I mean? Just any sport and equipment. And, sport and being fit and healthy are such a massive thing that would help out a lot of young people that otherwise go down the routes that I sort of went down. I think we were speaking about it before. People that are into sports, even from areas where there's a lot of crime, people that are into sports are always left alone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That young people that are into sports don't the people that would usually try and suck people into their criminal element leave young people that are into sports alone, and that's the same in like America from the hoods over there. It's always been the same. It's just there's a kudos about being involved in sports and being fit and healthy that means that you get left alone by
absolutely.
So it's a good charity, and for me it's a really important thing. Even though I'd sort of come out of homelessness already and had got clear of that, but in my sort of mid-20s, through this Fit Club place that's doing this event for us, I got really fit, and that sort of pushed me to the next level because all of a sudden I was looking after myself and healthy body, healthy mind. And I wouldn't have had the confidence to walk into the military careers office if I didn't know that I was going to pass all of their fitness tests quite easily.
This is... Maybe it's far too big a question to ask in the time that we got left. Having got out of it, was there never a temptation to just think, well, I'm clear of all that now? That's a part of my life that don't exist anymore. Because I know for me there certainly was. Yeah. Certainly for a few years it was like, no, it was I never spoke about it or anything like that. I've got clear because I'm better than they are. They failed, but I succeeded. Mm-hmm. Because I got out of it.
No, because I got so much help myself. It's not like I just did it all on my own. Yeah. And I didn't just get 2 or 3 chances. Like when people say everybody deserves a second chance, I got a few chances before I stopped like offending, and then even getting out of the sort of cycle of homelessness and everything, I got a lot of help. Even getting into the Navy, it wasn't just a case of me walking in. I had to have one person in particular sort of take it upon his own shoulders to say, right, I'm going to help this lad get in because he's trying to help himself. But I do think that people do that once you start really trying to help yourself and people see that you are trying and struggling. I think I found that that's when people step in and say, all right, we're going to help him out because he is trying. So I've never left it behind.
That's another one of the problems, is that there is this thing about that, but that can be kind of double-edged, because sometimes you think you look at people and you think, it's 2:00 in the afternoon, they're in a sleeping bag, so they're not making any effort. It's like, no, do you not understand?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to judge until you're in
exactly.
that position. Do you know what I mean? And
do you understand what the option is to being asleep?
Yeah,
at 2:00 in the afternoon.
And being homeless, and people talk about living day to day. When you're homeless, you live in like minute to minute. Do you know what I mean? You literally are. A lot of the time in the mornings, you're just walking around because you've got nowhere to go. So people say, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. There is nothing to do, so...
Right, the podcast is Outside Looking In.
From the Outside Looking In podcast on YouTube.
Is that what it's on, YouTube?
Yep, on YouTube. We will eventually put the audio ones onto Spotify and everything, but we mentioned this before when we did our podcast. Yeah. I don't really know what I'm doing, to be honest. So like I'm like the John Peel of the podcast world, and then he's jumped on. He was like, you need some help, so he's jumped on, and then we were like, is this like, are we like the Hacienda now as well?
Factory Records.
Factory Records. He was like, I'm your manager, and I was like, you're my secretary, and it's somewhere in between. But we're just sort of winging it, and I'm talking to people because I like talking to people. And
if you're from the northeast, from anywhere up the metro area, keep an eye out for the SportsTraider.
SportsTraider, yeah, that will be in Newcastle as soon as possible. It's just a case of we've got to find some people to tie in with. Not just obviously the obvious thing is Newcastle United Football Club, but
Amanda Staveley's PR guy needs to answer my emails. I've emailed him twice.
Well, maybe we'll drop as we're up here on this floor. Maybe we'll drop a little note into our dear friend and uncle, Mr. Jim White's.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Maybe we'll drop it saying, do us a favour, tell Amanda to, if nothing else,
speak to us.
Speak to you. Check her emails. Yeah. Listen. Last question. How do you compare my studio from your podcast?
Well, you haven't got a Welsh dresser. So I don't know if nobody's seen the podcast that me and Bob Mills did. I'm in front of a Welsh dresser, which I'm pretty sure makes me middle class.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
And the last one's from my kitchen.
And the last one's from his kitchen as well.
But can you imagine trying to pass yourself off on a podcast? Yeah, in the world of the homeless, you're thinking, mate, that cost at least £300.
We got it second hand.
He nicked it.
Listen, thank you so much for coming in.
No worries. Can I just say that we need people to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Get on the YouTube channel. From the outside looking in.
From the outside looking in podcast on YouTube. Press subscribe because otherwise.
And we're on Twitter and Facebook.
And we're on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, don't just watch it for free. If you watched it, pay for it. Come on.
Well, it's not paying for it, but
all right.
it helps somehow.
And we're going to set up we set up a GoFundMe.
Yeah, there's a GoFundMe for what we want to do with the podcast.
See, I'd have done all this at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So, but what we're doing, the podcast is going to turn into a community project up in Newcastle where we're going to get youth clubs and everything in to learn about all the equipment, and we've got a GoFundMe and all that.
Well, keep us posted, and we'll keep talking about the SportsTraider. When you get that open and up and running. But for now, Ricky, thank you so much. You listen to Bob Mills.
Thank you.
TalkRADIO.
Good talk. Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk Radio. Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.